There's a verse in the Bible that says God hates divorce. And I've known a number of people who've been divorced and have kind of internalised that idea that maybe God doesn't hate them, but certainly likes them a little less than those people who've been married for a long time. That in a way God kind of disapproves of them a little bit. And in 2020, I got divorced. And having been through the heartbreaking, the kind of agony of your family, I've got 2 kids, of your family just being kind of ripped apart, of that relationship and that promise that you've had for decades just coming to an end. Having been through that experience, you know what? I hate divorce. And it makes total sense to me that God would look on marriage and divorce and say, you know what, I hate divorce. And sometimes, ironically, sometimes in the last year or two, I've had people who come to me and their relationship is in difficulty or their marriage is struggling and they come to me for advice. And I'm like, why are you coming to me for advice? You know, I've got a failed marriage. You know, I'm hardly the role model for you, but still they insist on coming to me. And the thing I say is always the same. I say just do everything you can to rescue and restore your marriage. Do everything that it takes. Don't bury it. Don't pretend it'll get better. But seek a professional. Kind of talk about it. Get it out and work it through. Because otherwise you'll end up in this experience of thinking and saying, I totally hate divorce. There was a moment when, a really, really significant moment, almost at kind of the height of the pain that I was going through in my own separation. And I can remember this massive significant moment. I remember I was kind of lying in the bath and I was just thinking about the mess that my life was in. I was just thinking about everything that was before me in terms of everything that was just kind of falling apart and walking through separation and probably walking into divorce. And I remember in those days, sometimes the pain would be so sharp in my chest that it would, this will sound really stupid, but I'd sometimes put my hand on my chest to check if there was a knife there, because it felt literally like there was a physical knife in my heart. But there was this really significant moment where I was lying there and I put my hand on my chest. I was lying in the bath and then I heard a voice. And it wasn't like an external audible voice. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't my voice either. And the voice asked me a question. And the voice asked me possibly the most significant question that I've ever been asked. And the question was this: how are you going to walk through this, Derek? Given what's in front of you, given that you can't go round it, given that you just can't stand still and pretend it's not happened, given that you're going to go through it, how are you going to go through it? And I remember without thinking, just instantly, I don't know where from, this kind of answer and this determination rose up instantly. And almost I made this kind of snap decision. You know, I'm a bit of a thinker, a methodical thinker. I like to think things through, but in that moment there was this kind of instant decision. How are you going to walk through this? I instantly decided that I was going to walk through this in a way that I'd come out at the end better rather than bitter. That this was not going to destroy my life, which makes no sense because it was destroying my life. At the moment it felt like my life was ending. And that kind of decision meant all sorts of things that I worked through in the coming years after that moment. I mean, one of the things that it meant is that as I came out of the separation, as I came out of divorce, what I wasn't going to do is carry bitterness and hatred and resentment with me for years and years. You know, I had enough pain, I had enough challenges to deal with without adding that. And so that meant forgiveness, it meant kind of going to counselling, it meant kind of working through all the stuff that was in me. It meant putting my kids first, and this will sound obvious, but when you're going through separation, divorce, it's so tempting to kind of use your kids to get back at the other person. You know, but I determined to put my kids first and to resist that temptation. I determined that I wasn't just pressing pause on my life, but that God had things for me. He had a new life for me. he had new things for me to do and to learn, and I was going to kind of step into that and embrace that and look for what was there. I'm so grateful for that voice, and I'm so grateful for that moment which asked me the question of how are you going to walk through this. I'm so grateful for that voice, because it was that voice and it was that question that rescued me from possible years and years of darkness, and instead brought me into years of light. And as ridiculous as it sounds, brought me into peace and brought me into joy.